welcome to every movie I've ever seen. Today, the movie that I'm going to be talking about is Pandorum. This is a sci-fi film starring Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster. It was released in a year, and honestly, the first thing that I could say about this movie is it's surprisingly forgettable, at least for me somehow, and not forgettable in a bad way. Like, The Deal was extremely forgettable because it was painfully boring and dull, and that's why I couldn't remember anything from The Deal. But this movie, I just don't remember anything from it. Maybe it's like a fault in my brain or something. But I remember the first time I watched this movie. I watched it for the first time, and then a couple months or maybe a year later, I was looking at it and I was like, "Oh, that's right, I saw Pandorum. I don't remember anything that happened in it," and it kind of shook me. I was like, "Wait a second, I saw this movie. How can I not remember a single thing about it besides the fact that Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster are in it and that it takes place in space?" So at this point, I've had to now after this recording, I've had to see the movie a couple times to reach the level of remembering that I'm currently at, which still isn't all that great. But I think I've seen it 2 or maybe 3 times. I don't remember. But yeah, it's somehow very forgettable. I don't know. And it's not, like I said, it's not the fault of the movie. I think it's a pretty good movie. Maybe a little bit of an underrated, sci-fi film. It's about well, I'll say what I remembered before. Now, in preparation for this video, I did a little research into what happened. I read the Wikipedia synopsis to get myself prepared. But first I'll start off with what I remembered off the bat without doing any research. Now, this movie stars Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster. They're like space guys in space, and they wake up from hypersleep and they find themselves all alone with like mutants or whatever crawling around attacking people. And so they gotta do something. And Dennis Quaid stays in the main control room, and Ben Foster goes out and about, crawling in air ducts and fighting mutants. Now, eventually, what we find out in the movie is that young Dennis Quaid young Dennis Quaid went crazy, got Pandorum, which is like space craziness. I think it's like a real thing, or like a hypothetically real thing or something. I don't know if anyone's ever actually gotten it, but like in the real world, it's not called Pandorum. And it's just in the movie, people who have it or experience people who have it call it Pandorum. So anyway, young Dennis Quaid goes crazy, kills a bunch of people, and then young Dennis Quaid goes into the cryopod thing, the hypersleep, whatever. And eventually, young Dennis Quaid will wake up to become old Dennis Quaid, but old Dennis Quaid has amnesia. So old Dennis Quaid doesn't remember being young Dennis Quaid. He actually thinks he's somebody else. So at this point now, older Dennis Quaid is, and I say old Dennis Quaid and young Dennis Quaid, it's 2 different actors, but I don't remember the character's name. So, and the actor who plays young Dennis Quaid is a nobody. So I just, and so now old Dennis Quaid, he doesn't remember who he really is. He thinks he's somebody else because he's in somebody else's pod. And he's having hallucinations of young Dennis Quaid. But he doesn't know he's young Dennis Quaid yet. He thinks young Dennis Quaid is somebody different, who's like still alive and causing problems. Until eventually he does find out that he's young Quaid. He remembers everything because they both wake up with amnesia because they woke up bad or something. And that's pretty much, the gist of what I initially had to remember after 1 or 2 times. There was a couple of things that I did forget about that, I remembered after reading on the Wikipedia page. Now, I forgot that Ben Foster encounters other people. You know, there's like a little mini band of distinctly unique caricatures who, you know, pal around with pal around with Ben Foster and probably die. I know he finds... I did remember that he found Norman Reedus, like, dead. And he said, like, and he told him to run or something. And that was it for Norman Reedus in this movie. I don't know where this fits in with the Norman Reedus mythology. If this was... It was obviously before Walking Dead, but it probably had to have been post Boondock Saints. I don't know how... I mean, he was popular for Boondock Saints, but I don't know how well it did for his career. But, yeah. Anyway, Norman Reedus just has like a little bit part in it. He's the only other person besides Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid who are, you know, somebody, at least that I can remember. Anyway, also, I forgotten how the movie had ended. Now, the movie ends with, it's supposed to be like a 100-year mission to get to New Earth because Old Earth is dying, and they found out that it's been like 800 years since they've left since they left Old Earth, and they arrived at New Earth like 700 years ago, but because they've been in cryosleep, nobody has realized that, and this entire time they think they're out in space, but they're really in the bottom of the ocean of New Earth, which again I thought was, you know, actually kind of cool and a little neat twist. And then then Ben Foster and female character, they both, you know, get in some pod and shoot up the sea up into the surface of New Earth with the rest of the sleeping humanity remains. And, you know, Dennis Quaid and the rest of the mutants die. I don't remember what the mutants are. Maybe like just people who went weird, or they're actual mutants. I don't remember. And then I think it has something where it's like Year Zero, New Earth, something like that. Maybe that's 2012. That might be 2012. But yeah, and then, you know, I think I read that it was potentially setting up a sequel, which could have been cool, but, you know, probably didn't do all that well. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I don't know how good it is on a technical, critical standpoint, because I'm not a critic, but so maybe it probably wasn't that much of a success. If I can't remember anything about it, maybe I'm not the only one who can't remember anything about it. That might have, you know, hurt its chances of having a sequel. But who knows? They made a sequel to Skyline, which was weird as hell. So anything's possible. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about Pandorum.